Hello and welcome back to the Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart tutorial series, and in this one I'm going to talk about a big important topic, and that is ability checks. So whenever you are doing anything in the world of Cyberpunk, your GM may ask you to make an ability check. In this case I have my favourite class up, which is a netrunner, a hacker, and let's say I want to be able to get past security, but I don't want to hack it. I just want to, break the control panel, maybe snip a few wires, and maybe disable an alarm system without actually jacking in, as it's called, because we'll cover net running in another video. In that case, my GM may turn to me and say, okay, give me basic tech ability check. Now, what that means is that he's looked at that task and he's assigned it a DV, a difficulty value. That's based on either the module that he's running through. If he's running from a preset campaign, it will tell him what the DV is, or they might have just assigned it themselves, thinking, oh well, it's not a very secure system, or actually it is a very secure system, and they will have assigned that a difficulty value. They may or may not tell you this value to beat, but what it means is that I have to roll a d10 and add my modifiers. So in this case, I've highlighted it here, it's a basic tech check, so that means I can look at that and go, okay, so I need to use my tech, and I can add a +3 to it. My tech up here is 7, and I can add 3, that's 10, and then I roll a d10, I will do now, and that's a 6, so that's a 16. So if he's assigned that a difficulty value lower than 16, I succeed. If I rolled under the DV value, I fail, and your GM will tell you as such. And this counts for many things. Now, I mentioned briefly about luck, so let's say I really want to get into this system, and I think, no, I want to get into this and I don't want to fail this. I want to make sure I win. I can state before I roll that I want to use some luck. And the GM will say, okay, cool, how much luck do you want to use? I have 10 points into luck here, you can see. So that means I have 10 that I can use. So I could look at that and say, okay, I want to use 5 of my luck points. And then I go through the same process again. I go, okay, basic tech is +3, my tech is 7, 7 plus 3, 10, plus my 5 for luck, that's 15, and then I roll my d10. And I rolled a 10, which quite nicely leads me on to advantage. So if we left it at that, I would have a score of 25 against whatever his difficulty value he had assigned it. Because I rolled a 10, that's a critical success, which means I get to roll another d10 and add that as well. So I'm currently at 25 because I rolled a 10. But because I rolled a 10, I get to roll again, so I'll do that. Okay, and this time I roll a 9, which means I have 34. So because I rolled the 10, I get to roll again and add both of those to my end result. Now, it also works in reverse for critical failures. If you roll a 1, instead of adding to your ability checks that you've got from your statistics and any skills you have tagged, you have to take it away. So if I rolled a 1 on the same check, so I know from my tech skill and my basic tech I have 10, and I rolled a 1, not so good. So I roll again, my d10, and that's a 7. And because I rolled a 1, it means I take that away from my ability check, which means I've only got a 3, and odds are that will fail in most cases. If you've played Cyberpunk 2020 before, you will know that there was a mechanic called fumbling, which is where if you rolled a 1, the GM would roll against a chart and something interesting might happen. That is not in the Jumpstart kit, however in any games that I've run, I use those rules instead. But your GM will make you aware of any changes to things like that if they're using them. So that's fine against an object, but what about if you're doing a check against a person? If you're trying to defeat a person, it's your ability checks against theirs. So let's say me as a net runner, for some reason I wanted to grapple someone, I wanted to grab them and maybe pin them to the ground. It would be my ability check against theirs. Now in this case I would say that that is a brawling, and it just so happens that I do have the brawling skill, and that is a dex skill. So that means I can look at my dex, which is 10, and then add my brawling, which is +4, 14, and then I roll. and that's a 3, so that's 17. Now, the difference here is that the DV, the difficulty value, is not set by the GM specifically. It's now the opponent's turn. Now, this could be another player character, you know, maybe your fixer was just about to run in and set off a mine and didn't realise, and you tried to bash him to the ground, in which case it's you versus the other player. But in most cases, the GM will have another character sheet for all the enemies that you would encounter, and he will do the exact same rolls that you just did, but for the opponent. And so I'm just going to assume that the opponent has the exact same stats as me, the same +4 and 10 dex, and I'll just do the straight roll and see who wins. And that is a 2, just about. It was a struggle, but my Netrunner gets him pinned down. And that's how you do ability checks versus someone. Okay, so let's say you want to do a skill check, but you don't have the skill. Can you still do it? Yes. So we're going to keep with the tech, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to change back to the Nomad that we were using earlier. And let's say they want to do a tech check. They want to disable an alarm system, or maybe try and pull out some fuses to kill the lights, and they need to do a tech check. Now, my Netrunner would be far better at that, but let's say they're not available at the time, they're busy doing something, they're jacked in, don't know, they're not there. So the Nomad here could give it a go. In that case, the GM will just ask them to do the overarching statistic. In this case, it's easily identifiable because it's tech. But the same could be said if it was, say, shooting, which is reflexes, and you don't have the marksmanship skill, it would just be reflexes. Intelligence, if you want to use, say, local knowledge or perception, but you don't have those skills tagged, you can just use the flat intelligence. So in this case, we'll stick to the tech. So, okay, yep, I've got a 5 to tech, and I don't have any tagged skills that'll help me, so it's just a straight roll plus the 5 tech, which is a 4, 9. So not great unless it was a really simple task to just start ripping out wires. May not make it. So you can still do those and you can still succeed. It's just more difficult if you don't have the tag skill. However, as I said before, you can use your luck stat. So let's say the Nomad really wants to get that. And they go, do you know what, I'm gonna do this, and I'm going to dump all of my 9 points of luck into it. So they take their 9 and their tech. This gives them 14 off the bat. And then they roll a 6, they get a 20. They've got it. Now, that's all well and good, but can they keep using that luck in the next roll? No, they can't. Luck is somewhat arbitrary in the Jumpstart kit, in that it recovers at your next session, is what the book says. Now, your GM might be able to put other rules in there that say, you know, if you are playing for a very long session, that then you could say, okay, at this point your luck has came back, it's recovered. But the rules in the book state it's at the start of the next session. It's up to your GM, and if it's something you think you know, maybe if you know you're going to be playing for quite a long time, maybe have it that whenever you have a rest, you know, if you just keep in the back of your Nomad sedan or something, that you can get your luck back. Speak to your GM. So this brings us on to an odd one, cultural familiarity. And that can be used whenever you want to do something that maybe can't be defined into a specific skill set. And it is based on education. So you can see here that the Nomad has 2 points into education. Sadly, that is not enough. The minimum is 3. And if you have 3 in education, it gives you 1 point of cultural familiarity. And your GM will have this table and be able to tell you what your cultural familiarity is if you don't want to keep track of it, or if you've forgotten and you just think, oh, I could use cultural familiarity for that. Your GM will be able to keep you right. But it's just something that you can use if you want to try something that doesn't fit into any specific skill category that you're aware of. In most cases, your GM is probably going to pick a skill that closely associates. So let's say, for sake of argument, you wanted to win a staring competition. There isn't really a skill marked staring competition, but you could look through it and go, oh, okay, well, do you know what, concentration. We'll go with that and use concentration. Most GMs will just pick a skill that's as closely to it and stick with it, but in those rare cases where they can't, you can use cultural familiarity. So that's it for this one. We covered the ability checks and skill checks, all very important stuff. And in the next one, we're going to start into combat, which is the meat and bones of everything. So yeah, stick around for that. And again, if you have any questions, stick them in the comments below, and I'll answer them in an upcoming video.